Hello everybody, welcome back to another video, and today we will be doing my 2026 United States Governor's prediction for the 2026 midterms for the month of October. I've already done my monthly predictions for the 2026 Senate and House elections, so now it is time for the gubernatorial elections. I will be doing this every single month, so subscribe, like the video, and let's get into it. So, we're doing all 36 governor races in 2026, plus the two governor races that are up in 2025. That is Virginia and New Jersey. So Virginia and New Jersey, we might as well start with those. So Virginia in 2021, this one, it flipped to Republican Glenn Youngkin, who was able to run a middle-of-the-line campaign, balancing out support for MAGA and moderates. He was able to defeat former Democratic Governor Terry McAuliffe here in this leaning blue state. Now, Virginia has swung to the left since then, and Glenn Youngkin obviously is term limited because Virginia terms there for governors are only one term one consecutive term, because after one term, at least in between, you can run again. But the Republican nominee in 2025 is current Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earle-Sears. She was actually able to win her own Lieutenant Governor election because there are no tickets for gubernatorial elections in Virginia, so she was actually able to win, but she is not doing that well against Democratic Representative Abigail Spanberger. If we look at polling, there's not a single poll where Winsome Earle-Sears can pull ahead. So that is why I'm putting Virginia at around the same amount as Kamala Harris won in 2024. So that is going to be around that's going to be a flip for Democrats. I think Abigail Spanberger wins by 7%. Now let's go to New Jersey. New Jersey, you have Phil Murphy, the current Democratic governor, who won by 3.2 percentage points in 2021. He is term limited. He served 2 terms as New Jersey governor, but now the Republicans are nominating the same guy who only lost to Phil Murphy by 3.2%, Jack Ciattarelli. So Jack Ciattarelli, he's going up against Democratic Representative Mikey Sherrill now. Mikey Sherrill is another representative, this time obviously from New Jersey, and Mikey Sherrill, unlike Spanberger, she faced a very, very tough primary. She had to go against Stephen Sweeney, Josh Gottheimer. She was the most moderate of most of these candidates. Honestly, if Ross Baraka and Stephen Fulop, the team of progressive mayors, if they had united, if one of them had dropped out and they both united against her, they would have won. Let's look at these results. You see here that Mikey Sherrill did win against Ross Baraka, who came in second place by 14 percentage points, around 13.5. But Baraka and Fulop, if you add their totals together, you get around 37% against Mikey Sherrill. So if the Progressive Caucus in New Jersey didn't divide themselves, we would have either Ross Baraka or Stephen Fulop be the nominee. That did not happen. Another thing is that Mikey Sherrill, she has recently faced some scandal, but nothing that explosive. But Republicans, Jack Ciattarelli, definitely their best candidate. I could see this becoming very close. I honestly have a sort of toss-up right now, and honestly, I could see it being under 1 percentage points, and that's what I'm going to rate it as. I think Mikey Sherrill currently wins by 0.5%. Now let's start with the states that are going to be up in 2026. We'll start off with the safe states, obviously. These states are going to be over 15 percentage points, so let's get into it. We're going to start off in California. California, Governor Gavin Newsom is term limited. He won against, Brian Dale by 18 percentage points in 2022. 2026, you have a very, very crowded field of Democratic challengers. California does use an open primary system, so only the top 2 make it out of the primary. So, and all the Republicans, Democrats, they're bunched together, and only 2 candidates are in the general. It could be 2 Democrats, it could be 2 Republicans, it could be a Democrat and an independent. But you have a lot of candidates. The top ones I'd say are Xavier Becerra, the Secretary of the HHS under the Biden administration. You have Katie Porter, the former representative from California's 47th. And you have Betty Yee, the California Democratic Party chair. I'm not going to get into it that much, but I am going to say that this one should be safe Democrat. Any of these Democratic candidates could honestly win. Now let's go to Colorado. This one went to Jared Polis by 19.3 percentage points in 2022. He overperformed Joe Biden and Kamala Harris by quite a lot in this state. Surprisingly, Polis is term limited, but you have another strong Colorado Democrat likely taking his place, and that's Senator Michael, Senator, I think he's up in 2028, Michael Bennet. He is I don't know if he's stronger than John Hickenlooper or the other Colorado senator, but he's not up, so that means if he does win, there's going to be a special election in 2026 to take, never mind, but he will be able to choose his replacement if he wins. But Colorado, I think it's going to go safe Democrat with Michael Bennet. Now let's go to Maryland. Wes Moore, Democratic Governor Wes Moore, is up for re-election. My governor, honestly, he flipped the seat in 2022 from very moderate Republican Larry Hogan, who was term limited. He won against, I think, what's his name? But he won by 32 percentage points. And for some reason, this page is not loading. There we go. He won against Dan Cox by 32 percentage points. He's running for re-election. Should easily win. Now, let's talk about New England, Massachusetts. Democratic Governor Maura Healey. She won by 29.2 percentage points. She flipped the seat from, I think... Wait, who was it? Was it Mitt Romney? No, right? Charlie Baker. Oh my God. She flipped the seat from Charlie Baker because Baker obviously was term limited. Kind of the same situation we had with Maryland, but more really not as popular as Wes Moore, but she should be able to easily be reelected. Now let's go to Connecticut. Connecticut Governor Ned Lamont. He actually only won by 12.9 percentage points. Even though he's not that unpopular, he is facing a primary challenge from Josh Elliott, state representative. I don't think it's that serious, and Lamont should pretty soon announce his bid, and he would easily win in Connecticut. Now let's go to Rhode Island here. Dan McKee is up for re-election. Kind of the same thing with Lamont. Should easily win. Now let's go to the safe Republican seats. Idaho, you have, I think, Jim Little. And honestly, Wyoming, Mark Gordon, that's another easy win. The reddest state in the country, South Dakota, Nebraska, Arkansas, and Arkansas, you have, Sarah Huckabee Sanders running for re-election. Brad Little is going to be re-elected in Idaho. Oh, wait, I think. Because I don't think he's term limited. No. Is he term limited? He might be. No, he is not. Okay. He should be easily renominated. Tennessee, you have, who is in Tennessee? I think it's, Bill Lee. I think he is, term limited. So you have a pretty interesting primary going to go on here. Marsha Blackburn, the senator from Tennessee, should be the nominee, but you do have John Rose, a representative. I think if he doesn't start to do well in polling, I think he's probably going to drop out and just run for re-election in his seat, because Marsha Blackburn currently destroying him in polling for the Republican primary there. Alabama, the Republican nominee likely going to be Senator Tommy Tuberville. So those are the safe Republican seats. I'm also going to put Florida. Actually, no, not Florida, because we're not running Ron DeSantis here. I think that's going to be it for the safe Republican seats, except for Vermont. Vermont, you have very liberal Republican Phil Scott, probably going to be renominated by the Republicans in Vermont. I mean, he's been governor for how many years now? So I think Phil Scott, the only red governor in a very liberal state nowadays, because Maryland, no, Massachusetts, no, with Mitt Romney, Charlie Baker. So yeah, I think Phil Scott should easily win here in Vermont. Now let's go to the likely Democratic states and Republican states. These are states that go between 5 to 14.9 percentage points. We'll start off in Oregon. Oregon, very unpopular Governor Tina Kotek is running for re-election. If things don't continue to do well in places like Portland, I could see her going lean, but I think she will expand her margin from 2022. So Oregon's going to go likely Democrat. New Mexico, Michelle Lujan Grisham, I think she's term limited, I believe. Yeah, she's term limited. I think Democrats likely can nominate Secretary of the Interior under Biden's administration and former Representative Deb Haaland. So, there you go. I think she's a pretty strong candidate, likely Democrat in the state of New Mexico. Now let's go to Minnesota. Minnesota, Governor Tim Walz is running for re-election another time, and he should easily win the primary. Republicans, they're probably going to nominate the same person they nominated 4 years back, and that is Scott Jensen. So Minnesota, Walz won it by 7 points. I think he's going to win it by double digits in 2026. Now Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, he's running for re-election, should easily win the primary, and there's no strong Republicans running. Yeah, I think they're going to nominate, once again, the same person they nominated 4 years back. This time it's going to be in Illinois, Darren Bailey. Yeah, we're going to skip Wisconsin, Michigan. We're going to go to Pennsylvania now. This state went to Donald Trump in 2024, but Josh Shapiro, one of the strongest governors in the nation, he won by 15 percentage points almost in 2022, and he's likely going to get renominated. And Republicans, they don't have exactly a strong field either. You could have the same person who's very controversial and lost to Shapiro by double digits in the state that Trump won in 2024, back in 2022, Doug Mastriano. Or you could nominate a pretty strong state treasurer, Stacey Garrity, but she's not that strong either. And if you look at polling, Garrity loses to Shapiro by 16 points and 18 points. And honestly, polling doesn't show that she's any better than Mastriano. I do doubt that a bit. I think she performs a couple points better than Mastriano, but then again, not by much, and I think Shapiro will easily be reelected. Now let's go to Kathy Hochul. Kathy Hochul, she is running for re-election in New York, and honestly, she's probably going to beat her Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado in the primary. We see the primary here. Yeah, come on, it's not much. Delgado's probably going to lose. Now, Republicans, they're probably going to nominate Elise Stefanik. She's really the only MAGA candidate in this race. We could have had Mike Lawler, who actually could have had a chance, but Elise Stefanik, that's what we have, right? So, Stefanik, in the general election against Kathy Hochul, she loses by quite a lot, and I don't think this one's going to be that much off from the 2024 New York results. Harris won this by 13 points. I think Hochul hangs on to her seat by around, 13, 11 percentage points, still by double digits. Now let's go to Maine. This is going to be the final state in the likely Democratic category. Jeanette Mills, she might run for Senate, but she is term limited in 2026, and Democrats, they have a wide field of candidates. The most progressive is former president of the Maine Senate, Troy Jackson, and he has been endorsed by Bernie Sanders. And you also have the daughter of Maine's first representative, Hannah Pingree, Shelley Pingree, her mother. You also have Angus King III, the son of Senator Angus King Jr., and you also have Shanna Bellows, the Secretary of State. So there's going to be a very interesting primary here. You see all of this money raised. Wow. Honestly, I would love to see a primary poll in Maine for the governor's race. It could be Hannah Pingree. It could be Angus King. It could be Troy Jackson. It could be Shanna Bellows. But we'll have to see. It's going to be very exciting here. Republicans, not many good candidates. You do have Jonathan Bush, which is interesting, relative of George H.W. Bush, the nephew of him. So, I think this one's going to be, no matter who the Democratic candidate is, I think Maine's going to be pretty strongly Democrat. Now let's move on to the likely Republican states. We're going to have Kansas. This is a flip in Kansas. This one was won by Democrat Laura Kelly by 2.2 percentage points. She was reelected in 2022. Kansas went to Donald Trump by 16 percentage points in 2024 in the presidential race. I think Laura Kelly will lose, because obviously she is term limited, and Democrats don't have any good candidates besides a couple state senators. And Republicans, I think they're going to nominate. Honestly, it could be really anyone. There's not that many big candidates in those races. You have a lot of state officials: Scott Schwab, Secretary of State; Vicki Schmidt, Insurance Commissioner; Ty Masterson, the president of the Kansas Senate; and Jeff Collier, the former governor of the state. I would see, this is another governor primary I would love to see a poll of. I think, honestly, it's either going to be Schwab or Collier, in my opinion, depending on who has more name recognition. Kansas, I'm going to put into the likely Republican column. Let's go to Oklahoma now. Oklahoma, Kevin Stitt is running for re-election. Very arrogant governor. He only won by 13 points in 2022. In 2020, for example, Oklahoma went to Donald Trump by 33 points. So you can tell that he's not the strongest candidate, but he's not close to losing the state either. I think, honestly, that Republicans, it's not going to be that bad because obviously Kevin Stitt is term limited, but Oklahoma governor races are actually kind of closer and more bipartisan than federal races. You have some interesting candidates in this race: Gentner Drummond, the Attorney General; Chip Keating, the son of Governor Frank Keating. You have Charles McCall, former Speaker of the House. You have a lot of strong candidates in this race, I'll say that. But I still think it's just going to go barely likely Republican. Now let's go to Texas here. Texas, you have Republican Governor Greg Abbott running for re-election. Democrats, you have not many good candidates in the race so far, but you have two Democratic juggernauts in the state who could run: Joaquin Castro and Beto O'Rourke. These two are part of the crew that are kind of wishing for a comeback for Democrats in Texas. Beto O'Rourke, Joaquin Castro, James Tallarico, who's running for Senate, and Colin Elrod, who's actually primarying Tallarico for Senate. So we'll see how that ends up. I think Beto O'Rourke's he's just gonna jump into this race again and try and beat Abbott, but I don't think it's gonna happen. And Abbott wins by double digits. No, I think he actually wins by 8%. Now let's go to Florida. Florida, you have Ron DeSantis being term limited. You have Jason Pizzo, an independent candidate who's going to get 2%, 3%. But you have Byron Donalds kind of versus, where is he? Well, Casey DeSantis isn't on here, but Casey DeSantis probably going to jump into the race. I don't know why she's not on this list, though. Byron Donalds, he's already gotten the Trump endorsement, and also Senator Rick Scott. Now, Byron Donalds, he's definitely the more MAGA candidate, and obviously there's some loose ends between the DeSantis clan and Donald Trump after Ron DeSantis dared to challenge Donald Trump in the 2024 Republican primaries, but eventually he did drop out and endorse Donald Trump. Let me see if there's any polls. Yeah, there was this one recent poll, and it was, Casey DeSantis actually beats Byron Donalds in a primary. So this one's going to be a very close primary, I could see, if Casey DeSantis comes into this race. Because Ron DeSantis, he's not exactly the most MAGA person, but he's very, very conservative, alright? He's very popular among Republicans in the state of Florida. And honestly, that could cause Casey DeSantis to win, but I don't see it that much. I believe Byron Donalds is still the favorite. Democrats, they probably are going to nominate either David Jolly or Jerry Demings for governor. But either way, I think Florida's going to go to either Republican DeSantis or Donalds by 14 percentage points. Now let's go to South Carolina. Also, before we get to South Carolina, I'm so sorry, I forgot to put Hawaii into safe Democrat. Josh Green, he's the incumbent governor here. He's going to run for re-election. Still win. Hawaii always is off my radar for some reason. But South Carolina I would like to talk about. Nancy Mace is running here. Henry McMaster, the incumbent governor, is term limited. But you have a pretty wide field of candidates once again in this primary. Pamela Yvette, the lieutenant governor. Nancy Mace, a representative. Very MAGA, very conservative. Ralph Norman, another representative. And Alan Wilson, the attorney general. So, there's sort of a mess in this primary polling. South Carolina does use runoffs, right? So if neither candidate gets to 50%, there will be a runoff. And shockingly, Nancy Mace, in some polling, isn't even making it into the top two. Pamela Vett and Alan Wilson are really the only other strong ones compared to Mace. Mace makes it almost. This is the first time, this latest poll is the first time that she does not make it into the runoff. Instead, Pamela Vett and Alan Wilson are going to make it here. Honestly, I think Ralph Norman should probably drop out. And even if Mace does make it to the runoff, since she is the most controversial candidate, most other candidates who are eliminated from going into the runoff will probably storm their votes, whoever is going up against Mace. If that's Yvette or Ellen Wilson, we don't know. But, yeah, honestly, I doubt Nancy Mace is going to be the nominee. I think it's going to be Pamela Yvette. Also, I don't know why Pamela Yvette looks so much like Nikki Haley. But anyways, all of these are pretty conservative, actually. But Mace is just kind of, dumb in the head. I think that's going to be Iowa. Next, Iowa, you have Kim Reynolds. She isn't term limited, but she is retiring here. Randy Feenstra, representative from Iowa, is fourth, probably going to be the nominee. Democrats, they're going to nominate popular state auditor Rob Sand. Honestly, he could do well against Feenstra, but I would say it's still Feenstra's still going to win it by 5.5%. Now let's go to Ohio. I'm also I'm going to put that later in lean. I do want to go to Alaska for a sec. Alaska, it's almost out of the question that Mary Peltola runs here because the only other sort of known Democrat in Alaska, Tom Begich, is running for governor. So, I mean, come on. Alaska uses a ranked choice voting system, so you are going to see something interesting here. Republicans, their strongest candidate is probably Nancy Dahlstrom, the lieutenant governor. So, I have it going likely Republican. Now let's move on to before that, we're going to put New Hampshire into the likely Republican category. This is kind of like Vermont. Gubernatorial races in both of these states happen every 2 years. Kelly Ayotte won by 9.3% in 2024. She is very moderate, and she has also refused Donald Trump's demands for her to redistrict the state and give Republicans a congressional district, because right now it is 2-0 for Democrats. And it's very hard to draw out a Republican district in New Hampshire, actually. I've tried it before. But she overperformed Donald Trump in the state by double digits, and it would be a very stupid move to primary her. But if we look in New Hampshire, not Oklahoma, if you look in New Hampshire, Kelly Ayotte, she has no primary challengers, really. I think she's going to win, even with Trump's, threats. Democrats, so they're probably going to nominate Tom Sherman, I guess. I think. Yeah, the Democrats don't have that many known candidates here, and Republicans are favored to win this seat. Keep it Republican, even in such a blue state. Now we're kind of left with all the swing states from 2024 and Ohio. We're going to start off with a lean state, and that is going to be in Nevada. Nevada, you had in 2022 Joe Lombardo win the seat, flipping it from incumbent Democratic Governor Steve Sisolak. Joe Lombardo, he is very popular in Nevada, but he may face his largest challenge yet, this time from Nevada Attorney General Aaron Ford. Now, in a Ford versus Lombardo matchup, we actually see in this shocking poll, I wouldn't trust it that much, take it with a grain of salt. Lombardo up by 21. I doubt it's going to be that much, but remember, Donald Trump did win this state by 3.1 percentage points. Honestly, Lombardo does lose a teeny bit of that Latino vote. Actually, no, he might not even, but I think Lombardo wins by 2% in the state of Nevada. Now let's go to Ohio, another lean Republican state. It could be more close, but the Democrats, their best candidate really is Tim Ryan. If they nominate Amy Atkins, it's going to go double digits to Vivek Ramaswamy. Vivek Ramaswamy, really MAGA, already received the endorsement from Donald Trump, and basically every single other candidate in this race has withdrawn, and Vivek Ramaswamy is likely going to be the nominee. Democrats, the other big candidates the other big representatives and Sherrod Brown, former senator, who's running for Senate again, this time against John Huston, have declined. So it's really up to Tim Ryan. Does he want to leave the seat to Amy Acton, who's going to lose to Vivek Ramaswamy by 10%, or does he want to make this race competitive? I think he's going to jump into the race, and if it's up against Tim Ryan, Vivek Ramaswamy does still win. Much closer, though, and I believe Vivek Ramaswamy, I think Tim Ryan jumps in, so Vivek Ramaswamy wins by 4%. Now let's go to the state of, let's go to Wisconsin, I guess. Wisconsin is going to go under 1% to Mandela Barnes. Tony Evers, the incumbent Democratic governor, he wasn't term limited, but he is retiring, deciding to not run for another term. You have a couple candidates in here so far. The only big name is Sarah Rodriguez, the lieutenant governor, but Mandela Barnes, a former lieutenant governor who ran for Senate and only lost to Ron Johnson by under 1%, is likely going to jump into this race. He's definitely the Democrats' strongest and most name recognitions candidate, and Mandela Barnes would beat Sarah Rodriguez in a poll from Platform Communications by 8%. Republicans are likely going to nominate Representative Tom Tiffany from Wisconsin's 7th Congressional District. Tiffany, your classic conservative, not that MAGA, but definitely part of Trump's coalition. I think Tiffany would lose by under percent to Mandela Barnes. Now let's go to the state of Georgia. This one's going to go into the lean Republican column. Republicans are likely going to nominate, and they have a couple state officials to choose from, right? Because incumbent Republican Governor Brian Kemp is term limited. You can choose Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, Burt Jones, the Lieutenant Governor, or Chris Carr, the Attorney General. So, honestly, Raffensperger, he's definitely the more moderate, but still very conservative. He rejected Donald Trump's claims about Georgia being rigged in the 2020 presidential election. Democrats, you have a couple. You have Geoff Duncan, the former Republican lieutenant governor of Georgia, who left the Republican Party and even spoke at the 2024 DNC. You have very progressive Democratic Socialist and Palestinian immigrant. Palestinian immigrant Rua Roman, state representative from the 97th, and a couple state representatives like Derek Jackson. And you could have Stacey Abrams, a nominee for this seat in 2022 and 2018, lost by quite a bit each time run. Geoff Duncan, no doubt, even though he is conservative, has conservative values, he's definitely the strongest candidate for this seat. I mean, you really can't win Georgia. And honestly, I really don't think that there's an open path if they nominate Rua Roman, if they nominate Stacey Abrams. They gotta settle some of their values to win this seat, if they want to win, obviously. I think Geoff Duncan is definitely the best candidate. And if they don't nominate him, it's going to be likely Republican. If they do, it's to be a bit closer. I do have Georgia going 1.5 percentage points right now. I really don't know who the primary candidate is going to be. Honestly, could it be either Carr, Jones, or Raffensperger? Now let's go to Arizona. We'll be putting this into the Tilt Democratic category. Incumbent Democratic Governor Katie Hobbs won the seat by only 0.7 percentage points against Kari Lake, for God's sakes. Thank God Kari Lake is not running for this seat in 2026. Instead, she's running for Arizona's first, which is being left open by Representative David Stryker, who has served in this seat since 2011. Stryker just announced his bid a couple days ago, and Karen Taylor Robson and Andy Biggs are already in this race. It's going to be an interesting primary. Although things have been shaping up better for Robson in recent days, I really don't know now that we're now including David Stryker into the race. So we'll see how he does. And I think all three really have around the same platform, and I would think that they would all lose to Katie Hobbs or perform the same against Katie Hobbs around, the same. I have Katie Hobbs winning this seat by 0.6%. And now let's go to our final seat in Michigan. Michigan incumbent Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer, who won the seat by double digits in 2022, is term limited. So you have very popular 70% plus approval rating Detroit Mayor Michael Duggan running as an independent in this race. So obviously we'll see if he takes more from Democrats or more from Republicans. But obviously his main voter base is to be centered in Detroit. Detroit, 70% African American, very Democratic city, and African Americans are a key path for Democrats to win in the state of Michigan. If somehow Duggan takes like 40% or more of African Americans in the if he takes over 40% of the vote in Michigan, and then the Democrats only get like 30% and the Republicans already get 30% normally, then that would be a devastating blow and kind of that would be the nail in the coffin for Democrats. Democrats, they're either going to nominate Garland Gilchrist or Jocelyn Benson. Once again, both statewide officials. Jocelyn Benson, heavy favorite in this race, winning every single primary poll by 40, 50 points. Republicans, they're likely going to nominate Representative John James from Michigan's 10th Congressional District. James is a very strong candidate, and I would think that in polling right now, you are seeing that Jocelyn Benson can win. She has won every single poll, including James and Duggan, but you do have a large amount of undecideds that could definitely decide these polls. But James literally wins against every single candidate in a matchup that does include Duggan. So I think this race just will barely go to John James. But you have a lot of time, and it's possible that Mike Duggan drops out, runs in the Democratic primary. We'll see. But I think if Duggan does stay in this race, then Republicans, I just feel like they have a slight edge among these undecided voters. Duggan's already polling 20%, 16%, 21%. Duggan is doing very well, and I think he's just going to slightly hurt Democrats more than Republicans. So thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe, like it for more content like this, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.